Laura Cassidy from the American Chemical Society. Welcome to this news briefing from the ACS Fall 2019 National Meeting in San Diego. We're joined today by Emilia Mehanatzoglu from the University of Hull. She's studying how to clean pollutants from water with pollen and spores without the achoo. Mrs. Mehanatzoglu?
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. I am Emilia Mehanatzoglu. I am a PhD student at the University of Hull in the UK. I'm here today to talk about our research on pollen particles for water purification. Our work is part of a European project called INTERREG North Sea Region Solid Sediments, and it is a collaboration between 4 countries, the UK, Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Our goal is better treatment, better prevention, better assessment. We analyze sediment samples for emerging contaminants like triclosan and diclofenac. We are looking into new technologies for better water treatment, and we also engage with citizens, inform them on the products that contain these emerging contaminants, and give alternatives and solutions. So I am part of the better treatment part of the project. We are researching the potential of pollen spores to be used as a material for water purification. Now, we are all familiar with pollen. This yellow powder consists of tiny particles that are part of the reproductive system of the plant. They contain all the essential information for the plant to reproduce, the genetic material. And in order to protect this information, they have very interesting properties. They are light shielding, they have antioxidant properties, and they are very robust and resistant to chemical and physical attack. So in our research, we remove this genetic material, and we end up with empty pollen shells that are non-allergenic, and they also have interesting functional groups on the surface, so they act like traps to emerging contaminants like diclofenac and triclosan. So we put these empty shells into a solution of contaminants, and they are able to act like sticky sponges. They absorb the molecules, the contaminant molecules, and when we remove them from the solution, together with the pollen spores, we remove the contaminant as well, leaving behind clean water. What is promising about this material is that it is a green solution to an environmental problem. We are using nature to help nature, and not only it works really well, but it is also a reusable material as well. So that's what I will be talking about this afternoon in my talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Please state your name and affiliation before asking your question.
Hi, so it's Kath O'Driscoll and it's from Chemistry and Industry magazine. I'd like to know a bit more about how good are they at absorbing these chemicals, and particularly the pharmaceuticals and things like triclosan and diclofenac you mentioned. Have you got some actual figures to show how?
So our experiments are either in solution, or we use the material as a filter. The capacity of the material is it can absorb 30 milligrams per gram, which is so far. This is for triclosan. For diclofenac, I think it's a bit higher. I think it's 35, if I remember correctly.
So would you imagine using them on their own to clean up these things? I mean, would they completely purify the water,
Well,
or would you use them with another
So
chemical or
the
other treatment?
current wastewater treatment plants are not able to remove these small molecules that we are talking about. We are talking about an additional step to the water treatment procedure.
Okay. And just in terms of the collection of these
Yes.
pollen
Yeah.
spores, how would you envisage that working? I mean, is it only the club moss that you think is going to be useful, or will it be lots of pollen spores?
We are working with club moss. It is stated in the literature that it is the most robust pollen spore. It is a very easy to grow plant. It doesn't require any specific soil or any specific treatment, and that's why we like them. We like it. So yeah, for the moment our research is focused on these pollen spores, but in the preliminary studies that we have made, we have also tested other pollen particles as well, and they work quite nice.
Okay. So would you imagine growing up these pollen spores specifically for this purpose? Is that what you think would happen if it became a viable technology, that you would actually have
Yes.
bioreactors growing the pollen
Yes,
spores?
because it is a very easy to grow plant. It can grow practically everywhere on the planet, from America to Europe and Asia. It doesn't require any specific soil, so it will not occupy areas that we need for other purposes. Yeah.
And can you say a little bit about how you tailor the surfaces just to extract different
Yeah,
compounds?
so first we do the extraction. We obtain these empty pollen shells, and then after we test it against the contaminant, sometimes it's working perfectly right after the extraction. If not, we are able, because they have these functional groups that I mentioned, we are able to alter this surface. We are able to make it positively charged or negatively charged, or yeah. I cannot reveal what we really do because we haven't published yet, but it's a really promising material because of these properties that we can tailor this surface and make it efficient against targeted contaminants.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Katie Cottingham from the American Chemical Society. So I was wondering, how did you get the idea to use pollen and spores to clean water? That seems strange to me.
Well, the University of Hull has a long history using pollen, so they came up with the idea and they proposed the funding for this European project. I personally accepted to take part into this huge project because I found it really unique and innovative to, as I said, use nature to help nature. Thank you.
Hi, so it's Kath O'Driscoll from Chemistry and Industry magazine. And I was wondering what happens to the pollen spores once they've actually done the cleanup and they have these contaminants on them. How are they disposed of?
So as I said, the interesting part is that it is a reusable material. We can wash it with, depending on the contaminant, different solvents, remove everything with the solvent, and then the material comes back to its initial state and it works again. So for the moment, the experiments that we do where we research the material as a filter, the efficiency of the material as a filter, for the moment we have tested it if it works up to 3 times, and it works really well in the initial adsorption efficiency after 2 washes. So
And what about the contaminants? What happens with them? I mean, can they be reused at all? Or?
In the lab experiments that we do, we are working with high concentrations, really higher than the ones that we find in the environment. So I would say that, yeah, we maybe can evaporate this solvent and end up to the initial state of the contaminant.
Okay. And can you say something about the hydrolysis process as well?
So there are known procedures. They are already published procedures. We either use acid or base hydrolysis, and depending on the procedure, the final material is different. We have materials of different colors and different proportions of functional groups on the surfaces.
Okay, thank you.
Bela Buslik, ACS. How does the pollen shell compare to things like activated carbon or activated silica or alumina or derivatized compounds, which are all able to adsorb things, both cost-wise and efficiency?
Well, about the cost, it really depends on the scale that we are talking about and all the whole final product. About the efficiency for triclosan, the adsorption properties are better. The pollen spores work better compared to granular activated carbon. On the other hand, it really depends on the production procedure that you want to use. We have a material here that we don't have to spend time in the lab to synthesize it. We let nature do that. We just harvest it and follow simple procedures like acid or base hydrolysis. And here it is. We think that it is a green way instead of using harsh chemical treatments. It is a green material. That's it.
The other question is, when you're essentially producing the shells of the pollen, there are some guts that need to be gotten rid of. So what do you do with all that stuff? Is it able to be used as a feedstuff for other like? You're essentially generating a secondary waste stream there, that you have to get rid of somehow, and the best way, of course, would be to grow something on it, or what?
Well, we haven't gone so far. We are talking about a mixture of proteins and lipids and the wax coating of the pollen spores. We haven't gone so far to the research to make it all reusable process, but I'm sure that, yeah, your idea might work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one. So what are your next steps for this research? Are you talking with wastewater treatment plants to actually try to put this into place?
Yes, our project involves a partnership with water treatment companies in the UK. So we take their advice, and the final part of the project is not only to stay on research lab-based experiments, but to actually construct something that will be used in the water treatment process.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, thank you. The archive version of this session will soon be posted at bit.ly/ACS 2019 San Diego. Please join us for our next press conference at 9:30 a.m. today on flame retardants from plants.